So, R.E.P.O, this game has consumed both the internet and me ever since it came out near the end of February. It's silly, incredibly satisfying to get good runs in, and the likes. But on my first run, I noticed something about the game. It's way smarter than Lethal Company. And I don't mean that by saying it's smarter with its visuals or sounds or enemies, because no, it isn't. Lethal Company enemies are a million times better and I will die on this hill. I mean, this game is coded smarter than Lethal Company, which makes sense. Lethal Company was completely developed by just one guy who also plays Splatoon. That's not really important, I just like Splatoon. R.E.P.O has an actual dev team by an indie company out of Sweden. And one of the ways this game is smarter than Lethal Company is that enemies can hear you. Okay, so actually the enemies in Lethal Company can also hear you, but the way each enemy hears you in Lethal Company aren't really that important and don't come into play much, except for, well. However, in R.E.P.O, making noise can be so much more crucial to living or dying, mostly due to the hiding mechanics and this guy. And even just a few hours into my first playthrough, I asked myself, how do the enemies in the game hear? What do they do when they hear me? Do walls muffle my voice? Does hiding change how I'm heard? All of these and nothing more in today's episode of, you know what, never mind. So, what makes noise? Well, it would be really easy if I had a list of everything in the game that makes noise right now. Oh hey, this list was made by my mortal enemy Chibu1, so thank you. But I didn't just want to blindly follow this, so we're diving deeper, where we find out noise doesn't exist. Or, well, enemies investigating you because of noise is technically faked. See, this list seems pretty small for everything in the game that can make noise. And that's because it isn't everything in the game that can make noise. In fact, some of these aren't even noises. This list is the list of things that will trigger an enemy investigation, which is a special phase most enemies have where they'll come search for you if they hear you. So that one teammate that's loudly explaining how many footsteps an enemy is making is actually alerting that enemy. And I wrote in all caps here, fuck you. Each noise also has a range attached to them. This range is calculated in units. Units are imaginary numbers decided by Unity, and I'm not explaining them. If you want a general idea, Fog in Mechanic Station ends 20 units in front of you, and Fog in Headman Manor ends 15 units in front of you. This means that most things on this list will be in your vision, if you're on station, that is. The list itself contains the bowtie when investigating, duck quacking, the handgun, the shotgun, the trank gun, door opening, door closing, but those two aren't likely to happen. Object breaking, impact, more impact, more impact, more impact, jumping, footsteps, depending on what material you're stepping on, voice chat, the flamethrower, the doll, extraction point, musical objects. And 2, technically 3 because one is missing from this list, more things we'll have to get back to later, so stick around for that. The voice chat element is also interesting. It'll always have 5 units of range, but has a small grace amount of noise you can make. This grace amount is actually doubled when you are crouching. And that gets tripled crawling. This means you could technically try to make a very, very silent noise to alert teammates, but I would not recommend it. If an enemy hears a noise and is in its range, it'll walk to the point it heard it, not to the player who made it, and that's it. Everything else is handled by the enemy. Video over. Bye. Or is it? See, there's still a bit of hidden code going on here, which is enemies respawning faster when a sound is heard. If the sound's radius is more than 15, meaning if the sound is a bowtie investigating, a shotgun shooting, an object breaking, the doll, extraction point, music, and 2 other spooky hidden noises that I mentioned earlier we'll get to later, then enemies will get 5 seconds ripped off their respawn timer. The time does not depend on the item, so no one item is better to them. So expect monsters to start spawning faster if you and your teammates are messing around with certain prop items, or the shotgun, extracting, or existing near a bowtie. But wait, it feels like this list is missing something. What about the animal box? Well, this is because Chibu's list is wrong. To be fair, it was made like a few weeks after the game came out. This list forgets to include trap items. Items that have a chance to turn on undamaged or just by random. These are the gramophone, the grandfather clock, the music box, the radio, the TV, the animal crate, the saw, the propane tank, the bottle, the clown, the fan, the frog, the toy monkey, and finally, the book. All of these things will cause noises, and all of them will be enough to trigger enemies to respawn, so be very careful carrying any of these items around. They can very easily cause an onslaught of enemies to come chasing you down. And now we can finally end the video. That's all that happens when noise is heard in the game. No, of fucking course, it's a huntsman. A huntsman investigates like any other enemy, but also has a fun secret. If the investigation point is close enough, it'll Distance of the sound also matters, as if the sound is made within 4 units of him, he will have a consistent aim time of half a second and significantly better aim. Although, isn't it a bit weird that I'm calling these investigations rather than noises? Well, about those 2 hidden noises. One of these is the final extraction ping. It's completely silent, but it alerts enemies as if a noise was made. It has a 100 unit range. The other one is the leave ping, but that's more about how the rest of the enemy AI works, which R.E.P.O can explain herself. And that's how the noise in R.E.P.O works. It starts out pretty simple, but has a lot of nuances that are never really explained that well by the game. The next video will be the AI behind my upload schedule. Just kidding, it'll be big, I swear. By the way, since you made it this far, here's a fun little tidbit. Grenades and pulling stuff out of your inventory won't actually cause any noise to enemies. Yeah, that's about it. Goodbye.